And I realized after 32 years as a brain coach, it's not how smart you are or how smart your kids are or your partner is, your team is. It's how are they smart. And this allows us to recognize our strengths and take the judgment, the self-judgment we have about ourselves if we're not good in certain areas. And it also allows us to build a community around us of people who could support the areas where we're not quite as strong.
Hello, hello, Heal Squad. Welcome back to another great day here where we're going to talk all about your brain. Very exciting stuff. But first, our quote of the day. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Embrace the power of lifelong learning, and you'll discover that your potential is truly limitless. That, my friends, is from my dear friend Jim Kwik, the author of Limitless Expanded Edition. We are going to have a really great conversation today. I'm excited for that. If you don't know who Jim is, he has been on the show many, many times before. He's dedicated his life to unlocking the full potential of the human brain and authority in brain optimization, memory improvement, and accelerated learning. He's had over 30 years of experience, and his passion for empowering individuals to tap into their inner genius is so special. We've had him speak at some of our events. He's just an incredible guy. He's a household name at this point. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He speaks for massive corporations like Nike and Google and Harvard and so much more. And today he's going to be with us talking about, in this first episode, what your brain animal is. So he has this, what do you call it? A quiz that you take to figure out which of the 4 brain animals you are. I happen to be a cheetah, and what that will say about me will kind of help me in my life and will help you in your life when you're hiring people or when you're working with other people or just understanding everybody else's different ways of learning and processing. It kind of takes my astrology stuff to another level because I've used astrology to help complement me and my team. But this is like a whole other level of stuff. So we'll talk about this brain animal quiz in here, how everybody learns differently, a little bit of child development talk because Jim also has a young child, just like I do with Athena. And he talks about mirror neurons and why the company you keep is so, so important. In a different way than I've heard before. So I hope you enjoy my chat with Jim, part 1. And here we go. So I took your, what do you call this test exactly? Your Kwik brain code animal?
This is cognitive types. I realized that, Maria, you know how there's like personal medicine based on our genetics, and there's tests for your microbiome for personalized nutrition. We've created a model for personalized learning. And so once it informs, like, your brain type, and we made them 4 different animals, kind of fun way of doing it, then we could give you prescriptions on how to read faster, improve your memory, because everybody learns a little bit different. You could even apply it towards parenting based on your brain type. So this is something we haven't talked about. So yeah, it's something we're very proud of. We pulled from things like inspired by personality types like Myers-Briggs, introvert, extrovert, left brain, right brain, dominance theory, visual, auditory, kinesthetic learning styles, like so much. And put it into a 4-minute quiz that anybody could take. And then we give them strategies on how, based on their specific brain animal, on how to learn, live, and even lead. So hiring, managing, parenting, doing sales, everything gets a lot easier when you know yourself.
See, now I'm really excited because I was told to take the test. I was a dutiful student and I did it. But I didn't know that I was going to learn all of those things and be able to do better in those areas. So I'm really excited about that. So I am an agile cheetah.
You are an agile cheetah. All right, so maybe I'll give everyone just a quick overview on the 4 animals.
Yes, please.
And then we could go into how to apply it in our day-to-day to make our lives a little bit more peaceful and productive. So code, CODE, is an acronym for the 4 animals, of course. The C is the cheetah, which you identify as. Cheetah is all about action. They have very strong intuition. They thrive in fast-paced environments because they adjust very quickly and they adapt. They learn stuff not just for the sake of learning it, but to make things better and to implement them. The O in code stands for your owls, and your owls are where the defining trait of a cheetah is action. The defining trait of an owl is logic. They love data. They love the facts, the figures. They're very studious. Sometimes they spend too much time researching before implementing something. And just even me going through those two animal brain types, they learn different. They read different. They would remember names different, even, and they would parent different also as well. The D is your dolphins, and their defining trait is their creativity. So I believe a lot of the future belongs to the creatives. These are people who have a vision, maybe of their themselves or their business. Maybe other people can't see it yet. So maybe a J.K. Rawlings, a Walt
Kevin.
Disney. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be
Kevin's
interesting. We had our
definitely
whole
that.
team take it also as well. It's so enlightening. And so they're great pattern recognizers. They speak in pictures. And finally, the E are your elephants, and their defining trait is empathy. These are your team builders. They're community builders. These are individuals that love collaboration. They have high level of empathy. And so how does this play out? We had our entire team take this quiz, and 100%, Maria, of our customer service team, they're 100% elephants
Oh, wow.
because they're compassionate, they're community builders, they're there to serve, they have high levels of empathy, they want everyone to feel seen and feel heard. Our CFO, our financial officer, is an owl, really dedicated owl. They love numbers. My business partner, she's our CEO. She's a creative dolphin. She has this vision for our mission to positively impact a billion brains, right? No brain left behind. And so it's very telling. And you even
What were
see this in,
you?
yeah. So I'm a strong elephant owl. So I love doing the research, but I also, maybe because, my backstory from previous episodes, I had a traumatic brain injury and I was labeled broken, was put in special education. So I suffered a lot. So I think that built my values of empathy because I could feel suffering in other people, and hopefully it makes me a better coach also as well. You see this also in pop culture. If you look at something like Harry Potter, Harry would be the cheetah, just in the midst of things, right? Quickly adapting, using his intuition. Hermione would be the studious one. She would be the owl, knows every fact and everything about magic. Someone like Hagrid brought the team together. He would be the elephant. Dumbledore, the leader of the school, is that creative visionary with his magic. Even Friends, if you look at Friends, Ross Geller would be an owl, a scientist, a professor, researcher. Joey would be the cheetah, just doesn't so much think, but just acts, right? You would see Phoebe as the creative dolphin with her music and her art. And I think Monica would be definitely an elephant. She was always wanting to host everything, be the center of the community. Um, very, very compassionate. So, yeah, we see it everywhere. And once you understand, I realize after 32 years as a brain coach, it's not how smart you are or how smart your kids are or your partner is, your team is. It's how are they smart. And this allows us to recognize our strengths and take the judgment, the self-judgment we have about ourselves if we're not good in certain areas. And it also allows us to build a community around us of people who could support the areas where we're not quite as strong. So that's why it's very popular. I use this as my coaching model for years. And in the new book, Limitless Expanded, for the very first time, we released this to the world and we make it free. People could even take the online assessment. We took what's in the book and put it online, mybrainanimal.com, which you went to, My Brain Animal. And then you get kind of like the personalized learning because cheetahs read differently than owls, right? Owls are looking for facts and they're going more slowly. They want full comprehension. Cheetahs are kind of skimming and scanning when they get the overview effect of it. Dolphins are very creative. So when they read, they picture what they're reading. Elephants, when they're reading, they read with high levels of empathy. They want to see the author's point of view. They also like to reconcile and kind of find a middle ground, in their understanding. And, but you extrapolate this towards names, towards parenting. I think even they talk differently. like cheetahs are right to the point, right? They don't beat around the bush because
Nope.
that takes a lot of time. They're very direct, they're very decisive, they're very instinctive, they're very independent. Owls, when they communicate, because it affects your brain type, affects your communication styles, they're very analytical, they're very methodical, they prefer details. And interesting because to know that you're an owl, or if you're communicating with an owl, you want to be able to communicate in their brain animal type, right? Because that's what they're going to most likely respond to. It's kind of like their love language. They love logical sequences, presenting facts. They love figures and data. Dolphins would communicate and speak in the bigger picture. Right? They're very creative. Their future plans, their innovative ideas. They're very enthusiastic. They have a lot of passion around what they're talking about. And elephants, they are very keen on understanding when they're communicating, validating other people's feelings, right? The perspectives of others. They use inclusive words instead of I and me. They use words like we and us, right? They're very patient listeners because they want people to feel validated and seen and heard. So it's remarkable. When the more you understand your brain animal type, I feel like it's a complete game changer.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like we all probably have a little of the other things too,
Very
because
much.
when you touch on all of them, I'm like, "Oh, I can be like that. I can be like that. I can be like that." But my dominant is definitely cheetah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, prior to this, I had a session with an astrologer, Deborah Silverman, who taught me about the different elements in our astrology. And so for me, I'm like all water and air.
Yeah.
And I need earth people to complement me, people who are organized and detailed. And, because I'm like up here and I need the people down here to keep me level. And so that's been really helpful for me. Even when I'm hiring now, I'm like, I know I need to hire complementary to me. I can't hire a million me's because then we're all good at these things, but not at everything else. You need a well rounded team. But now with this test, I really think this can help us understand how to communicate better with each other, not just have complementary skill sets, because now you get that, but then the bonus is you can learn how to work with the different brains. It also gives a lot of empathy to ourselves and to others. I'm thinking about some people in my life right now who are so frustrated with their owls
Hmm.
instead of recognizing that we're all either going to be a dolphin or an owl or an elephant or a cheetah, and we have to just come to grips with that. That's what it is.
Right.
And we have to figure out how to work with each other and understand everyone's going to have different strengths. I
And
really
it's not
like
like,
that.
just like you said, if somebody is a dominant animal, doesn't mean they don't utilize the other animals. It's just like if you're right-handed, that's your dominant hand. Doesn't mean you don't use your non-dominant hand. It's just not as effective. Even in learning styles, sometimes you're trying to learn something from a coach or an instructor, a mentor, and your learning animal is different than their teaching animal, and you miss each other.
Hmm.
And it's like two ships passing in the night, and there's no connection if there was. And
Guys, I know this conversation with Jim is so fascinating, but I also want to share something that will help you in your life in a different way. And that is Macy's Free Stylist program. Yes, you heard me, Free Stylist. As you know, Macy's is a huge supporter of the show, and they offer free stylists for you. So please take advantage. If you have an event coming up, or if you want to kind of up your wardrobe a little bit, you can tell them your parameters, you can tell them your budget, but let them come up with some new, maybe looks for you, help you get out of your comfort zone. If you go to Macy's.com/personal stylist, they are totally free. So you don't even have to spend a dime. They will help you. And I'm telling you, after years of working with stylists through what I do for work, it is incredibly empowering, and it really helps kind of whatever you're doing. Your fashion is like your costume, like an actor's costume. So when you're going to work and you feel great because of how you look before you leave, it's going to totally dictate your day. So take advantage. Macy's.com/personal stylist, totally free, and enjoy.
maybe you don't even realize the other one is there. But you can even see this in in parenting. There's strengths that come here, like strengths in parenting for a cheetah is they're quick to adapt, right? Children are very, very dynamic, right? So you could adapt to changes better. You could make decisions on the fly, like cheetahs do. They can be very proactive in their approach. Their kids can benefit from a sense of structure and predictability. But on the other side, challenges might arise also. Cheetahs sometimes be impatient at times and expect their children to adapt maybe more quickly. So then the advice would be cheetah parents, if it's one or it's two, should remember that children need a little bit more time to adjust to changes, new situations, sleeping patterns, building in moments of reflection, and kind of slow-paced bonding. So, because of neuroplasticity, we're not regulated to just one animal. We could improve through training and discipline and mentorship and coaching, certainly. The owl would have strengths in parenting, like they're naturally good at planning for their kids. They could create structured environments. They can impart critical thinking skills to the kids to help them approach problems more methodically. Dolphins they can inspire, with their creativity. They can instill a sense of wonder in their children and creativity in their children also as well. Challenges might arise where they might be dreamy and less practical at times, maybe I'll say it that way, which could lead to overlooking like the day-to-day survival
Hmm.
necessities. And then finally, you have your elephants, and elephants are deeply empathetic, so they can understand and relate to a child's feelings. They can prioritize connection and that bond, and they're often most patient, but that could also be a challenge also as well. Setting up boundaries with your kids, right? Prioritizing relationships and avoiding conflict, which might hurt them. But yeah, self-awareness is a superpower when you understand this. Understanding your brain, your child's brain animal as it develops, as he or she develops, and then complementing your partner. If people have a partner and in their family, to kind of take on certain distributed responsibility and tasks based on your own strengths. Yeah, I find it absolutely fascinating. You could use this for hiring. We use this now exclusively as we coach, Fortune 500 companies how to use these models for hiring and managing their team better also as well. So it is very thrilling. I think you need the curiosity to know yourself and then the courage also to be yourself, be your brain animal.
Yeah, I'm super fascinated by it, and I imagine when you're hiring people in customer service, you're like, "Where are my elephants?"
Yeah, absolutely. We have everybody going through these tests to make sure, because you want the right people on the bus, and then you also want them sitting in the right seats too,
Mm-hmm.
right? And everybody thrives in their element, for their animal.
I love it. Yeah, I feel like I've been the weirdo who's like instantly when I'm interviewing someone, "What's your sign? What can I get your time of birth
I
and
love
date
it.
your date of birth and place of, birth so that I
Hmm.
can run your chart?" Because I just I know now how accurate this is. And I feel the
Right.
same way about your test. But like I
Yeah.
said, it's even more applicable because now we can actually learn how
Yeah.
to communicate with everybody else, as well.
Even when you're
Um,
hiring a cheetah, they value efficiency, right, and
yes.
results, and so you put them in the right role. You might lean towards hiring candidates who demonstrate initiative and they could quickly adapt and they could be decisive, right? If you're going to hire an owl, these are people, who candidates they exhibit strong analytical skills. So maybe you're looking for that or attention to detail, which could be very important in certain roles. Dolphins are going to gravitate towards creativity, visionary individuals, and because we're going to hire also based on our brain type if we're not conscious of it, because we tend to
Yes.
communicate just like love languages, and that might not be, the person receiving that, the subject might have a different language of communicating. But your dolphins, when you hire them, they're going to think out of the box. They're going to be extremely creative. Your elephants are going to be your team players. They're going to have strong interpersonal skills. They're going to demonstrate high levels of EQ and emotional intelligence. And you want to make sure they're sitting in the right seat in the roles with your company.
Yeah. I love this. I love this so much. Talk to me about a little bit about the parenting and the development stages. You haven't talked about this before, you said,
Never.
and I'm in the throes of it with Athena. And, we're kind of like, oh gosh, should we be buying another toy for her right now? Like, what are we supposed to be doing? We're kind of just I feel like we're lost at sea.
Yeah,
And then I think about growing up. I didn't have any of this stuff. My mom and dad just took me to
right.
the nightclub where we cleaned and we hid in boxes and slept in a a room with a, what are those heater things called? I don't know, forget what it's called. But
Yeah, when my parents came here, we lived in the back of a laundromat, and so they had many jobs, and I'm very grateful to my mom especially. She was yeah, she's remarkable that way. I don't know how people did it, but
I
when
don't
it comes
either. I
to
say it all the time.
I it's remarkable. Even my wife is just new levels of growth and personal transformation. I'll say this: we have our firstborn is 10 months old, so we're in this.
You're 6 months
Sleep,
ahead of me, or 5 months ahead of me.
yes, sleep is an issue. I don't know how it is for you.
She's
Um,
doing really well in that category,
good,
thank
good.
God.
That's so important. Yeah, our boy is teething, so it's 3 or 4 times a night. It's an issue. But I would say a few things because I did a lot of research on this, and this is something that again we have nobody's. It's not going to be perfect ever. Even my book Limitless Expanded. Limitless is not about being perfect. It's just about progression, right? Making some progress.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say so important for babies. Let's start with babies before infants and toddlers. But babies, so the primary reason we have a brain is to control our movement. And as our body moves, our brain grooves. So the movement is so very important at that stage, because it provides sensory integration, the motor skills, both gross motor skills and those fine motor skills, those kind of more narrow ones, they're developed through movement, right? And when they learn to control their muscles, it's critical for later stages of crawling, of walking, of running, handling objects. So movement is critical for cognitive development because it's not just a mind-body connection. There's a body-mind connection of all age and stage for even as adults also as well. I'm thinking about movement also. We take our little one to a music class and there's at least that social emotional growth where they're kind of moving around interacting with the world because this really affects their brain structure. So practical things we've all heard of, right? We've heard of doing tummy time, right? A safe exploration of space. And I will say this, initially I was really looking to with our child to just teach everything, right? And I realized that it flipped. I'm just learning so much watching this little one be 100% present, being curious. And, it's like when he's outside in the sun, he feels like he could grab the lights, and I'm just in awe of just so I'm learning. I feel more than I'm teaching him at this stage. But we encourage interactive play, and obviously there are toys for that. But even you mentioned a box is very fun for kids. We're encouraging them to crawl. We do like a certain level of dance and music, and there's children have these things like adults called mirror neurons, and that's why children imitate it and adults imitate also. That's why it's very important for even adults to be careful who you spend time with because it's less about our neurological networks and more about our social networks. We hear who we spend time with is who we become. But like our little one starts clapping hands when we start clapping hands, or we make faces like I'll hum or whatever, and he'll do the same thing. And baby, we put him in front of a mirror, and he just kind of imitates himself, and it's kind of just fun. There's this baby yoga and massage that we're experimenting with. But again, we don't have to do everything, but
Yeah, it
it's
can feel
it's
like pressured. Like there was a moment just the other day where I was like, "Are we not doing enough? Are we supposed to be like making her a supercomputer? Are we supposed to be
right,
teaching
right,
her?"
right.
And then I'm like, "Wait, we didn't have any of this, and we turned out fine. Of course, we
Yeah,
want to advance and progress, like you said, and do better." I'm like,
yeah.
but it's just, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah. And then on top of it, just everything going on in the world and just our day-to-day careers, everything. Um, but verbal interaction is also important besides movement. Narrating, we just do simple things that don't take a lot of time, but we just narrate our actions
Mm-hmm.
when we're feeding him. We're describing the environment also as well. We read, obviously. I'm a reading teacher, so we have, multiple times where we read a quick story, I point to the pictures and I point to the words and just be conscious of also not just what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it, music is interesting because singing songs also, if you want to develop certain musical talents, is something. We speak Korean with the baby also as well, so there's some bilingual exposure, which is, the baby's brain, it starts to form more towards age 6. It gets more, it's always plastic throughout life, but around 6 and age years and 25 years, it gets more um, less malleable, if you will. So movement's so important. Music, I think it's just kind of fun. Give your baby a safe, kind of simple instruments like a rattle or a drum,
Mm-hmm.
singing to your baby in your own voice gives them exposure. There have been tests where they actually could teach children perfect pitch by giving them that exposure to those notes
Oh, wow.
early on, and it's a lot easier to do earlier, as we know. Same thing with language learning, but to stimulate learning in a child, and again, it doesn't have to be so scripted and so like structured. Just the basic idea is just a very interactive environment, right? Repetition is so important for children, just like it is for adults, where you're repeating actions or repeating sounds. Like if we're going like and I know not everyone's watching this on video, but like certain sign language, like more, when they're still hungry, so they don't have to, get frustrated. And positive reinforcement, having a set routine, because children, as you know, that structure is so important. Making them feel safe, which is so important in terms of comfort and just having patience. But I would also remind parents who are listening to this, and this actually would apply to everybody, is self-care. So just it's so important, and I know it's very difficult because when when you have time to shower and brush your teeth on top of
Mm.
everything else, but just for us, we try to sleep when the baby is sleeping at night, and I know it's not easy and often very practical. Um, mindful eating. It's always the life we live or the lessons we teach, and even children at different stages, it's not so much what you say, it's what you do. Even with as they get older, it's hard to with devices, right? You have Miss Rachel on TV or something else, you're trying to limit that. But I understand sometimes you're in a restaurant or you're on a plane and you don't want the baby to throw a fit. So, we have to be very conscious of our choices with devices. But it's hard even as children get older. If you're on your device and you're telling them not to be on the device, but we're on our device all the time, it's it could be a challenge. But I just want to remind, when we've talked about self-care is not selfish in previous episodes, but your sleep, your good brain diet, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
managing your stress because this is an incredibly stressful time. All of those play a big role. And again, taking when we beat ourselves up, studies on self-compassion show that if we beat ourselves up, like we weren't able to do enough for the child or for ourselves that day, we think that it's more likely to follow through if we're hard on ourselves. But studies in self-compassion actually show that when we're kind to ourselves and we say like, hey, we had a really long day and this happened at work and I'm human. If you're kind to yourself, you're more likely to follow through on the important things in the future. So I just want to remind everybody to just understand that we're human, and nobody is a perfect parent or just like or anything else, and to be kind to yourself. So, but I just want to remind people that self-care in this process is so important for your mental well-being, right? Finding social support, asking for help when you can, if you have access to help, continuous learning about reading on this topic area, child development, or watching YouTube videos, podcasts like this. It's all good, but really take care of your emotional self care,
I think
and
that's going to be
because
your
now
next
it's
book,
really going
by
to be
the way,
tested.
Jen.
Yeah,
Child development's going to be your next book.
it'll be fun,
Well, because
but
you're
they
going to
also
have the
just
experience now too.
yeah, it's not in a laboratory. I mean, I read everything on the subject, but even just it tests like how you're going to manage time, because with children it's very unpredictable. They get sick, and we're at the pediatrician the other day, and just
Mm-hmm.
even having personal time and maintaining your relationship. I got great advice from a friend of mine. He's like, you have two goals this first year. You want to that he recommended for me. It's just like you keep your baby alive and keep your marriage alive. And I'm like, okay, that's those are I could work on that.
That's it. Most important things.
Yeah.
You mentioned something in there that I'd love for you to expand on a little bit because I'm obsessed with what you just said. It was the mnemonic. the mimicking thing, and you said
Mhm.
it's something that we have in our brains, and
Yeah.
it's why it's so important who we spend time with. Explain
Yeah.
that a
So we
little
have something,
deeper.
so we have 87, 86 billion brain cells, neurons, and some of them are what they call mirror neurons. And it's exactly what you think it would be. If you ever found yourself watching sports on television or an action movie and you could feel what the character is kind of going through, that's our mirror neurons lighting up. And what it allows us to do is have empathy, and also we imitate unconsciously often what's in our environment. Just like children, they pick up these idiosyncratic gestures that the parents have. Sometimes even we mirror our dogs, or we tend to look like our pets over time just because we're always kind of looking, we're so connected, but we're always kind of imitating the people around us. And so exposing children and being a good example to the positive influences is so very important. And when as adults, even having a positive peer group, like whether or not somebody smokes has less to do with their biology and more, do your friends smoke? Because you're going to take on those habits. If your friends work out all the time, you're more likely to work out or meditate or eat good food, right? And so yeah, I think it's important. They say we're the average of the five people we spend the most time with, but certainly children, there are sponges, right? They'll pick up words that we say out of frustration, um, and impulse. And so I think it's important. And again, no, not understand we have a responsibility, but we also have try to have some fun with this and just self acknowledge that it's never going to be again, a perfect situation because life is messy and parenting is messy and learning is sometimes messy also.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I never heard of that. How do you say it again? Marmot
No, I'm sorry, mirror, like you're looking
mirror.
into a mirror,
Oh,
like so
mirror.
that's the yeah, sorry, my microphone. It's like if we're imitating, just like we're looking at our own reflection. So
Got it.
those are the mirror
The mirror
neurons.
neurons. Okay. I thought it was something different, but okay. Mirror neurons. All right, friends, that is episode number 1 with Jim. Tomorrow, when you come back, we're talking about speed reading. And I am more inspired than ever to take this up and to learn how to read better and maybe even properly, because we haven't taken a reading class since we were little kids, and we've all learned and kind of scrapped together and figured it out, but there's more efficient ways to do it that will empower us in such a big way. And we're going to talk about brain fog versus dementia and Alzheimer's, and kind of helping to distinguish what's going on if you're feeling like you're not remembering stuff, and brain food, the foods that are really good for your brain, and so much more tomorrow. So check back with us tomorrow for that episode with Jim. In the meantime, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or mariamenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.